Hello, this is Tom Brevoort. You are listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast.
Yes, welcome back, Looney listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast. I am your host, High Priest Khonshu Ray, taking you through episode 219 this time round. So welcome. We have a very special episode for you in anticipation for the upcoming Moon Knight comic book series. This will be, well, you can probably see it on the title of this podcast episode. It is a creator chat. So I had the privilege, along with fellow High Priest Khonshu, Rebecca, we both managed to sit down and chat with Jed MacKay, the writer of Moon Knight, coming out in July 21, the 21st of July, alongside Alessandro Capuccio on artwork. Before I get into more of those details, of course, a big thank you to our patroonies, those listed as co-producers and executive producers on our episodes. You guys really do help, and thank you so much for your support. It really has enabled this show to kind of take flight. So a big thank you to the likes of Daniel, Justin, Derek, Kyle, Wayne, Jordan, Josh, James, Russell, and Anthony. Thanks, each and every one of you, for helping the show prop itself up. Also, as well, a big shout out to Fringe Knight by Daniel Doing, one of our patroonies, an original indie comic based on Erie, Pennsylvania's very own mysterious superhero. And our custodian sponsors, Hello Headphones, empowering gamers to play at their best, and Dreamland Comics, the superhero superstore from Illinois. Now, Loonies, before we get into that awesome chat we had with Jed MacKay, I just want to get through some news as well. There has been a fair bit of Moon Knight comic news, which has really got tongues a-wagging. It's got the mouths salivating. It's got, your eyes popping, that sort of stuff. So, look, I'll go through it as it came to hand anyway. So, there's a lot of collected editions, a lot of goodies that you can put on your shelf, Loonies. I know you've probably got 4 or 5 copies of, yes, that version of Moon Knight, 2 or 3, but they've been reprinted again, and no doubt for the excitement that is swelling for the upcoming TV show. So a couple of episodes ago, Rebecca and I chatted about some of the releases, and on top of that, there is even more. So this is from the Hatchet Book Group website, so I'm assuming they're reputable. They seem pretty reputable as a motorcycle drives past. So what we have, February 1st, 2022, there's going to be a release of Moon Knight by Bendis and Maleev, the complete collection. So this is a soft cover, and it will be $29.99 US dollars, and it covers Moon Knight issues 1 to 12 from the 2011 run. So those of you, whether you like it or not, it's another collection bringing all of that goodness that is Bendis within, but beautiful Maleev art as well. Should be a cracker, that one. More recently, it had been released as a hardback. I think I've got the older versions of the hardback. They split that into 2 volumes, but this will be the whole shebang in one big book. So that'll be good. Also, we have in March 8th as well. We have Moon Knight by Lumiere and Smallwood, the complete collection. So you can actually buy the whole thing as well, issues 1 to 14, all collected in one. Again, it's a softcover. This is all trade paperback, but it's retailing for $34.99 US, 320 pages. So a fantastic run, that one. And again, not that long ago, the hardcover was released of the entire series. If you missed out on that, which unfortunately I know Rebecca said she did, here you go. You get the full deal in one big book again. So that's pretty cool as well. Moving on, the next month, April the 5th, 2022, we get Moon Knight Legacy, the complete collection. So this combines Moon Knight issues 188 to 200 of the 2017 run by Max Bemis and Jason Burrows, amongst others like Paul Davidson. Great art. So again, it's a bit of a polarizing run. Whether you do like it or not, it would be great to have in one big book here. So 312 pages, $39.99 again US. I'm definitely going to get this, but yeah, this will be about my third or fourth, reproduction of the content within, because I've got it digitally and all the others. But it's something nice to have just as an entire collection. So really cool. I'm really glad that they are doing this sort of thing, and obviously, if we look at it, it's from February, March, April. I guess we're looking to a build up to the TV show. It may drop, I don't know, around April, May, or maybe even June. But we'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see. All speculation. Now, on top of all this as well, I just want to recap what Rebecca and I went through a couple of episodes ago. So, February 2nd, again, 2022 next year, they will be re-releasing the Moon Knight Omnibus Volume 1. So if you missed that, you missed out on that, which was released, I believe it was early this year, January 2021. Then it could be, or maybe late 2020. Then you have a second chance, second bite at the cherry, and I've kind of ordered mine as well. Kind of don't want to miss out. Next February 8th as well. So there's a lot of traffic in February to April. We have Jed MacKay's first trade, so that would cover, I believe, probably the first 5 or 6 issues of his run, which is coming up very soon. Very exciting, so you can get your collection of that. March 8th as well, this is what Rebecca had mentioned, so that's coming out the same time as, apparently, the Lumiere Complete Collection, but this is Marvel vs. Moon Knight. It's kind of like an anthology. I think it's just a mixed bag of some stuff, so apparently it includes Werewolf by Night 32 and 33. It has Moon Knight 13 from 1980, as well as the Cullen Bunn run, the Acts of Evil Moon Knight annual. You would remember that with Kang involved, as well as material from Amazing Spider-Man. So actually quite very disparate selections there. Could be clues as to what the TV show will reveal. I'll be interested to know your thoughts, Loonies. Let us know. We've got werewolves there. We've got Kang there. Moon Knight 13, which, strangely enough, is the one with Daredevil and Jester. So a very odd one to place in there. And then excerpts from Amazing Spider-Man. So, I don't know whether this leads to some clues as to what the TV show will be about, but it's a very interesting collection indeed. Also, on top of that, we have the Moon Knight Omnibus Volume 2. That's out in March, and again, that will collect the rest of the Doug Mensch run, so 21 to 38. We'll have Iron Man 161, Power Man and Iron Fist 87, Marvel Team Up 144, Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu, fantastic, from the 1985 run, issues 1 to 6, the entire series. Marvel Fanfare 30, and materials from Solo Avengers number 3, Marvel Fanfare 38 to 39, and Marvel Superheroes number 1. So that will, be the official Volume 2 Omnibus, so that's pretty cool. And then out in April again, we have another Omnibus. It's not labelled Volume 3, but it's got all the modern Moon Knight stuff. So this was announced on Near Mint condition, on YouTube. And this includes the Houston run, so Moon Knight issues 1 to 30. Then we get the Moon Knight Annual from 2007. We also have the Moon Knight Silent Night of 2008, which is an awesome annual. We have the Vengeance of the Moon Knight by Greg Horitz's, the entire series there, 1 to 10. And we also have Horitz's Shadowland Moon Knight 1 to 3. I should also mention the Moon Knight 1 to 30. That, of course, includes Mike Benson as well, a fantastic writer who kind of took up the torch from Houston and really maintain that consistency of that great run. So that's coming out in April 2022. So Loonies, there are plenty of books to save your money for coming up. So you might as well start now. I mean, February, March, and April are going to be crazy. The final bit of news I've got here, this was posted up as well. Now, I don't know, this is not official, but again, there could be some truth to it. We have Alexander Cobb is to join the Moon Knight TV show along with Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke. If you have a look in our group or on the Facebook page, you'll see a picture of the gentleman, or just check out IMDb. Rebecca tells me he's a very British actor, so I'm not familiar with him myself. Interesting as to who you think he might play. I put my hand up and I said probably the profile. You put a dodgy moustache on him and he kind of maybe looks like him. But yeah, I'm very unfamiliar with him, so I don't know. I'm sure he's a very capable actor, but I'm just not sure what he would be known to do, or whether they do go outside the norm and cast him for something a bit offbeat. But we'll see. So that's another bit of casting news for the TV show. All right, Loonies, that's about it for the news. There was a lot of it there. I'm hoping you found it just as exciting as I do. But even more exciting than that is the upcoming Jed MacKay and Alessandro Capuccio Moon Knight comic book series. Now, this is released next week. So next Wednesday, the 21st of July, you'll be able to get it at your LCS. But before that, before the release, actually comes about, the two high priests, yours truly and Rebecca, thought we'd sit down with Jed and just ask him like how things have been, his thoughts on Moon Knight. We couldn't broach too much into the details of the comic book series. Of course, a lot of things are confidential and secret, so we didn't want to put Jed in a situation there. So we just talked around it and talked about Moon Knight and what he, I guess, finds interesting in the character. So I'll stop prattling on, and I'll see you on the other side of it. Catch up. Yes, Looney listeners, so we're here with Jed MacKay. Jed, welcome to the show.
Thank you, I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. I've got to ask as well, I think I heard Rebecca chatting beforehand about it. How was the jab? Is everything good?
I don't feel particularly great right now, but as I was saying before, but it's a small price to pay.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I've had the first one as well. Rebecca, I think you've had both, haven't you?
Yeah, because number one, I'm old, and number two, different country.
Yeah,
As I say, we've had three very different experiences of this.
Absolutely.
Just by our countries, yeah. So
yeah.
Mostly because I'm old.
Yeah, this is my second shot. My wife and I both were able to go in at the same appointment, so that was very handy.
That's
so
really
we just
nice.
kind of started progressively feeling worse over the last 24 hours.
Oh, I know, that's terrible. I've heard the second jab story. So let's hope that you're okay for this chat.
I'm going camping tomorrow, so
oh gosh. Well, just to open up, I guess, look, a lot of the Looney listeners know that you're a writer with Marvel, but you've written elsewhere as well. I mean, most notably like Magic with Boom Studios, but you've done a whole heap with Marvel. I just want to take you back, Jed, just to the very beginning of like when you started writing. So what kind of sparked the passion? Like, how did that come about?
Well, I've basically always been interested in stories. And comics have kind of gone hand in hand with that. Like I learned to read, pretty early, I guess. And a lot of that was because I was reading comic books. I've still got my old Tintin books, my, Barks and Don Rosa, Donald Duck, Uncle Scrooge stuff. And that was just, a real driving force for me to learn how to read. And I just fell in love with this idea of stories because, you can do anything in a story. I grew up, I got older and then I, moved on to like my dad's old superhero books. He had like 3 or 4 big Rubbermaids of mostly Marvel stuff. So Barry Windsor Smith, Conan, Galassi Master of Kung Fu.
Nice.
Just kind of like a smattering of stuff all through the 70s. And that's what I grew up reading.
Also, Menches and Galassi's Masters of Kung Fu. If that piqued your interest, I guess Moon Knight might have with Mensch's run later on in the 80s.
Yeah, but I never actually read a Moon Knight comic till I think probably when Declan was drawing it back in the 2014 series. Because Moon Knight was always a character sort of on the periphery for me. Because for a long period of time, I just wasn't reading superhero books. I was reading comics pretty solidly all through my life. But like in the 90s, I wasn't reading 90s comics because I was reading, that cost money. And I was reading comics we already had at home.
Yeah.
And I think the first time I saw Moon Knight was in one of the Marvel trading cards. And, he's such a striking character because he's got such a great look and got such a great name. And I remember as a kid being like, man, I don't know who that dude is, but he rules. But also the curse of Moon Knight is he's never really in anything for too long, most notably his own series. So
True.
It wasn't until like I said, it wasn't until that his 2014 series came out that I started picking it up and like, oh wow, this character is really interesting, really exciting.
Yeah, that was a big change of direction, I think, for Marvel as well. Marvel now, so a lot of things were kind of chopping and changing, and you had the the big, I guess, Warren Ellis and Declan Shalvey names to Moon Knight. I mean, Moon Knight's always been lucky to have had some really great creative teams. So that's a great one to pick up. Did that somehow inform you for how you decided to approach Moon Knight, or did some other influences kind of factor into it?
That's kind of bits and pieces. After I got the job, I was like, okay, well now I gotta go back and just start tracking down as much Moon Knight stuff as I can to get familiar with the character, get on a good footing to work with them, because I just didn't have a huge background on the character. Like, I mean, that's a lot of the times with writing assignments. They'll say, do you want to write this character? And you say yes, because you want to work. And then you say, okay, let's go figure out what there is about this character that interests me. What can I work with? What is exciting to me? What are some things perhaps I want to steer away from? Like when I got Black Cat, I wasn't a huge Black Cat fan, but now I am, through the experience of writing this book and going through and looking at this character and trying to find all the parts about her that I think are interesting and exciting and that would be a lot of fun to share with people. And so I went through that process with Moon Knight as well. I liked a lot of the sensibilities of that 2014 run. The sort of almost like the episodic, almost procedural sort of nature of it, I found really, as a reader at the time especially, I found really satisfying, because you get an issue, you get a story, Yeah. And that's something that I wanted to really draw on. Something I did with Black Cat, where, 2 issues, you got an arc, you got a story. It's not like, those weird 90s things where it's like, here's part 15 of an arc that nothing happens in this issue. We just had to kind of pad it out, So that really informed it. Similarly, that sort of street level, but also weird, which is really one of the bywords that we're reaching for in our series as we're working on it. Where we want it to be, I think that's where he works best. Like, I think he's a street level character, and that's where I find him most interesting. But at the same time, he's not. I don't want him out there, beating up muggers and purse snatchers, unless the mugger is a vampire and the purse snatcher is Dormammu or something, Yeah. So that's kind of the direction we're going in. But at the same time, going back to the original run, we're really trying to draw on a lot of the humanity behind Moon Knight. I talk a lot about the 2014 series, and I like it a lot. But at the same time, we basically know nothing about Mark Spector from that. He's a cipher. And I want to get into a little more of who he is, and especially who he is at this point in his life, after the age of Khonshu. After, as we we'll see, he has, he's broken ties with Khonshu, and what does it mean to be the host of Khonshu without Khonshu?
Oh yeah, because that was such a big, I think, a big moment in for Moon Knight fans, in the sense that it was such a departure from how he was. I mean, previously depicted in, say, the Bemis run, and you were mentioning about going back to the street level, which I think a lot of people welcomed. There were, of course, always dividing factors between what we want to see explored in Moon Knight, and there was a call for that kind of Egyptian side of things and the deity side of things. Jason Aaron definitely gave that with Age of Khonshu, but he kind of, I guess what came with an Avengers title, it came with a lot of flamboyance. It was massively big and big scale. So I think a welcome to the street level, a return to the street level, I think has been welcomed, by a lot of Loonies. It's an interesting dynamic, Jed, with the ensemble that goes with it. So, of course, touching upon the supernatural and the vampiric as well. I just wondering, they're very interesting characters. Looking forward to understanding more on Reese and Dr. Andrea Sturman. I believe she's a previous character, like an existing character.
Yeah, Andrea Sturman. She was basically she worked in the mental health field with Jack Monroe, who was the Nomad.
Right.
The screwed up commie smasher Bucky. And then she came up like years ago in my first series when I was working on Daughters of the Dragon. I needed basically a psychiatrist to work with this character Rutherford Winter, who was in it. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. Like, she already has experience with superhuman menticide, like with brainwashing on a superhuman scale. So she really kind of slotted in as the perfect character for Mark to talk to. And because it's something I've mentioned before in interviews, where I think one of the things that's most interesting about Moon Knight, whatever name he's using, is how alienated he is. He's got, there's just a lot going on between his ears, and so I made the choice to, dispense entirely with thought captions or thought balloons for him, because I want readers to have the same experience of him that the other people in his world do. I want him to be, opaque. I want him to be a cipher that we gradually uncover, and sort of taking the place of those thought balloons, or the avenue we had into his head are these conversations he has with Dr. Sturman in his Avengers mandated therapy sessions.
Nice.
Did you have to do a lot of research into DID to sort of tackle that side? Or I know a lot of people are very wary about taking on those kind of subjects, where you're always going to be under a bit of a microscope for it. So I just wondered if that was a little bit worrying or scary. It'd be scary for me,
It always is when you're dealing with things like mental health and how it's depicted in comic books. And we want to, like, when I got the job, we kind of had two directions, from editorial in the way that we're going. So we want to move away from, DID being the main focus of the story, and want to move away from Khonshu being the main focus of the story, because it was very rightly brought up that either of those things in a Moon Knight story, basically just the entire story gets sucked into that. So when we catch up with Mark here, we're looking at him with a new start, and he's in treatment. His DID is relatively under control. But the thing I've always found interesting about Mark and Moon Knight and DID is that all the problems in his life, they never stem from his mental illness.
No, they really don't, which is like why you say it's so interesting that sometimes that becomes too much of the focus, or when people are asking you to describe the character, it's so often like that'll be the thing people say, and it's like, but that's not generally where the action comes from in his life, or where these, the overall story is. It's just it's become one of those very easy ways of saying, in the same way as people say, oh, he's Jewish and he's got this, and it's just like then people move on and say very little else about him when they're sort of describing him.
Yeah, and going into it, I had a couple sort of touchstones of my own that I wanted to make sure were followed, in that I don't want to present mental illness as a superpower.
Right, which I think's really important.
I don't want to present mental illness as a gag, as a joke. Both things I think are very important. So we're not going to have a huge focus on his DID.
Cool.
Again, my main interest is in how he constantly screws up his own life, and it has nothing to do with his mental illness. How he makes the wrong choice every time, and how he's trying to, to the point where he took over the world and beat the Avengers. and how he's going to deal with the aftermath.
Yeah. Will we see? I mean, although not necessarily dealing with that issue of DID, will we see the other identities or?
We'll probably see a little more coming on down the line.
Okay.
We've got kind of a bit of a laser focus at this point in time, just getting these first issues out, this first arc. Planning out till put them in the soup, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that's something that we'll probably see exploring a little more down the line.
Okay.
Whereas now we want to be a little more specifically just focused on this street level stuff and figuring out why his life's a disaster.
Yeah. I was just a quick question as well, Jed. It just popped into my head, and so I've just got to ask. You mentioned the 2014 run, Declan Shelby, Warren Ellis. Had you ever considered, because it's not done that often, the one shots? I mean, how those issues were all kind of real. Mm-hmm. And you're speaking of arcs. Had that come into your view to potentially play with or do?
Well, basically, for the first 4 issues leading into number 5, every issue is its own story. Okay. Every issue also builds to a greater story than 5 and 6 are 2 parts. I don't know. It's something that I find it easier to plan, but also I find it more satisfying as a reader. I like having a discrete piece of story when I get an issue. Even if it's over 2 issues or something like that, it's easier for me to write, and I find it's a satisfying thing to read.
It's easy. It makes it easier to jump into as well. At any if you don't buy the number 1.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. So
yeah.
We're gradually, as each issue goes, we're gradually building threats that are going to pay off down the line. But each issue is itself a specific thing that he's dealing with.
Okay. And also, just further to that, then, Jed, not knowing, I guess, how well the title will go and such down the line. Have you mapped out, how far have you mapped out? If I can ask.
So I've planned out till 12.
Nice.
Hopefully it'll make it to that, and then hopefully it'll make it beyond.
Okay. Cool.
I have ideas for further on down the line, but I mean, you know how this business is, right?
Yeah.
You crack those double digits, you start looking for that axe. So you don't get your hopes up too much, or seed stuff too far down the line, because then you're left either leaving it hanging or playing catch up when you get a cancellation you weren't expecting.
Yeah, well, I know everyone listening to this will be very hopeful of a long run.
Yeah, absolutely.
So am I. Because the thing is, that's why I was so excited to get the job. Is it's a Moon Knight run is so few and far between. He's a character that I think is, deserves to be up there, and he's just, years go by without him having a series. So that's why I was very excited to get the chance this time around, and with the knowledge that you kind of get one turn on the merry-go-round on this, and if they're not successful,
Yeah. Did you also, I guess, going to that, speaking of landing the gig, so to speak. So we were lucky enough to have Tom Brevoort on the show as well, a fair few episodes back, and he was going through the process of how these titles come about, and I asked the question, is it something that they kind of look towards a particular creative team, or do they throw out expressions of interest, stuff like that? And Tom basically said, yeah, look, they throw out expressions of interest and they get some pictures from everyone, which I believe is how it happened, right, for yourself, Jed?
Yeah. Generally, sorry, if you get more in there.
Oh no, yeah, I was just about to go further on and say,
go ahead.
So having pitched that, Jed, and been very successful, obviously with the story, Tom's greenlit it. Did you have to come up with various other scenarios? Did you have multiple ideas for Moon Knight, or how did you approach it when you approached this kind of call to send your ideas in?
Yeah, so I feel like most of the time, editors will have a specific idea of what they're looking for in a book, and then they'll know who they want to get in to do it. In the case of Moon Knight, they didn't really have a clear idea. Tom sent me an email in the fall and said, listen, we're trying to put together this Moon Knight book. You had mentioned that you like Moon Knight. Do you want to put something together and send it over? And we'll see see if it's a good fit. He's up front too. He's like, I got to tell you, I've sent this out to just a few other people to see what sort of ideas are out there. Because again, they don't have a specific direction they need to go in. So they're kind of soliciting ideas from all about. So, I was very excited because, again, it was a huge deal for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
The opportunity to work with a character that I'm really excited about. And just I began to instantly think of like what would be interesting. And this is before Age of Khonshu even finished. So I was with Tom, like, hey Tom, what's going on with how does this end? Like how does old Moonlight end this one?
Yeah.
Because I got to tell you, it's not looking great for him right now.
Exactly.
If he ends as a god, I really need to know.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what is his relationship with Khonshu? Because right at the beginning, I think I almost automatically caught on this idea of, Moonlight, the Fist of Khonshu. One of his job descriptions is the High Priest, and I like a really interesting idea. And like, what would that look like? What would the orthodoxy and the orthopraxy of that look like? And also, what sort of relationship is Mark going to have with Khonshu? Like, before I knew that Khonshu was going to get banged up by the Asgardians, I was like, I don't want to write him just as a stooge. So like, what if he, from that idea, I had this idea of the Midnight Mission, where he's got, basically a place where people can come to him. And I was like, well, what if he's got, Khonshu, I don't know, tied up in his basement or something? But as it turns out, I didn't need to do that.
Yeah.
So
someone else does, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So once with that sort of grain of an idea, I just started extrapolating it, winding it out, thinking like, and again, I had my touchstones of street level and weird. Like, he's not Daredevil. He's not beating up the Mckay. He's dealing with stuff that is weird and also is particularly bothering the people in his territory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, what, and then of course, and then what's the overall arc? Like, where are these problems coming from? So, I sent that to Tom and Alana and Martin, and they looked at it. They sent back their thoughts. But I was also really excited when I sent it off. So I sent it off. And then later that day, I sent another email. I'm like, oh, also this could be in this. I just had an idea. Maybe this character could be like a bad guy. Cause it'd be a really good fit. And so I sent it back with some notes. I revised it, and we were just kind of off to the races from there. I wasn't sure if I had the job until like the second round of revisions. And they're like, yeah, you can have this now. I was like, oh, all right.
That's so cool. No, that's great.
And of course, you're going to be, the series is coming out at a time of heightened interest in Moonlight, shall we say. How does it feel to know you've got that TV show round the corner?
Honestly, I don't really think about it. It's not something that really enters my mind a whole lot. People will ask me stuff like, you got this Moon Knight thing coming up, or like, what if they take something from your thing and put it in the show? Largely unlikely, I would imagine. Or like, anytime I'm writing a book, like, what do you think if this character joined the MCU? And like, largely, I'm sure it'd be cool, I guess, but it doesn't really have much effect on the work that I do, because, this may be a controversial thing, but I just think comics are better than movies. So
I meant more that, like, well, I'm hoping it means more sales.
Well, fingers crossed.
On that side, like that he's become a character that more people are talking about rather than the TV show itself. Although obviously,
gotcha, yeah. So a heightened level of attention.
Yeah.
I think it will be interesting, particularly because I don't know anything about the show. So it's not like we're doing a synergistic kind of thing where we're bringing Moon Knight, the comic character, closer to Moon Knight, the television show character. I would hope that basically this series, when we're starting, will give someone unfamiliar with the character kind of everything they need to know. Like the first issue is going to be kind of not a hand holding, but just certainly a reminder of who this character is, where he came from, what he's been through, and what might be in the future for him.
Yeah, I guess that's where, maybe Rebecca, you were maybe asking, or where you were heading. Just the idea of, there's that fine balance, isn't there, Jed? I guess of nodding towards the seasoned fans and getting straight into it, but also then being conscious of the fact that Moon Knight will be opened to a lot more other eyes because of the TV show, a lot more interest, that if people who, love the MCU and the TV shows go, oh, I might pick up the comic, pick up Moon Knight #1, that there's enough there for them to kind of understand the character. So, yeah, it's an interesting balance to see how that turns out. I love the, Rebecca and I were just briefly talking about they released the previews of issue 1, and you mentioned, Jed, as well, about him being very territorial. I love his voice in it already. He seems quite foreboding, quite obviously sure of what he wants, but very, very territorial. So I think that's a great aspect for Moon Knight to have in this.
Yeah, and it's something that I'm having a lot of fun with is, even DID aside, Mark Spector is someone who wears a lot of different hats. He's Mr. Knight when he's in the Midnight Mission. He's Moon Knight when he's out on the streets. And I'm having a lot of fun playing with the voice, the way he acts to different characters, the way he speaks when he thinks he's taking on a different role. The way he talks to, the people he's close to is going to be a lot different than the way he talks to people as, the Fist of Khonshu, when he's trying to really leverage the importance of his station, and which is also different than the way he's going to talk to someone when he's trying to leverage, his reputation for brutality. That kind of thing. It's something that I've had a lot of fun working with, and I hope it's something that people, kind of pick up on rather than just think that he's extremely scatteredly written.
Yes, that's very reassuring to hear as well, because look, I don't want to keep on going back to a particular example, but there was Moon Knight could be written, just as one particular aspect. So the way that you're describing it sounds great. He's actually, the way he interacts with different scenarios potentially has a different voice. Because I don't know, if I go back to, there was an event called Damnation. I'm not sure if you read that, Jed. Yeah. Look, I love the creators and the writers there as well. I think Donny Cates wrote that as well. But Moon Knight came across as very, very much just I don't know, Deadpool. Or Spider, he was almost a comic relief, and he had that one voice, and so to hear that, I guess it's going to be considered with how he's written in this series and who he interacts with and how he speaks to them. I think that's really good.
Yeah, and it all kind of goes back to one of the central conceits of the story, and this run is, the question of who is Mark Spector, or who is Moon Knight, or who is Mr. Knight, has always been answered via the channel of his DID. But I think specifically here where he has to figure out himself who he is, especially going forward in this new start, where he's a renegade priest who's at odds with the unworthy god. He's an apostate. He's a heretic, and what does that mean? Why does he hold on to this identity? He and Khonshu didn't exactly part on best terms, but he's still Moon Knight, and we kind of see why.
Yeah. Also, as well, I guess, Jed, just on that kind of aspect of, I guess, Moon Knight as Moon Knight, you mentioned he is very much kind of a lone, a lone wolf, so to speak. He's got this ensemble with Reese and. He at least interacts with them, Reese and Dr. Andrea Sturman in this series. I've always thought as well, he's had a very strong support cast, which is just as integral to his character as him being the lone wolf. So
absolutely.
So we've had the likes of, or we have the likes of Frenchie, Marlene, of course, as well, who I believe did I read that somewhere? Does she make an appearance soon?
No, not.
Okay.
Maybe right. Yeah, sorry. We're gonna find out what the deal is with Marlene.
Ah, yes, that's okay. That
right. So I also got Marlene mixed up with what was the name of the lady who ran the diner?
Gina.
Oh, Jenna. Yeah.
Gina. Yeah, I got those names mixed up in my head. I think I'm running half fever here. So.
Oh yeah. No, it's terrible.
It's not hard to do either with just throwing names. I once got Frenchie and Crawley mixed up. So hey.
Yeah.
But we'll find out what the deal is. Again, most of this is a pretty clean break with his previous associated cast, because I mean, he's had a pretty tumultuous time recently, and that's going to cause a lot of problems for people who are all. I mean, to be close to Moon Knight in whichever series you're in is not going to end up well for you.
Yeah.
So he's, again, kind of starting from the ground up. Maybe he's going to see some old friends coming up here. You'll find out who in the solicits for next issue, whenever those come out.
Nice.
He's got some new enemies.
Yes.
He's got brand new characters who are going to be throwing their lot in with Moon Knight, and at the same time he's going to have new to him enemies. Some characters that have been established in the Marvel universe but don't have any interaction with Moon Knight. I think that was something that was really, really interesting to me, is try to find the characters who would fit in well, but it would be something new for people. Because I didn't really want to do the Black Spectre again. I feel like everyone's seen Bushman enough to, they've got a gutful at this point. Try to shake it up a little bit,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And like the previous run with Max Bemis, he gave us a lot of new villains, which is great, and I think that same kind of excitement has translated over to, they released the cover to issue 3. We see Hunter's Moon.
Hunter's Moon, yes.
Yes, which is very, I don't know, I'm very excited about it. I don't know about you, Rebecca?
I'm not saying there's a betting round in Discord about him, but there's a betting round.
There is.
I mean, there's not much I can say about him. No. When the issue comes out, I'll put on Twitter my terrible first sketches of what I thought he should look like.
Oh, cool.
And then Alessandro's amazing design drawings he put together. It'll be it'll be day and night. So
but it's got people very interested.
It has.
And like I said, I can't even remember what the bet's over now, but I remember I know there's a betting
who
round.
Who it was, right, or something?
I don't know. I know I bet neither. So
okay.
And that was probably just to be annoying. So.
And McNiven channeling Jay Lee on that cover was just
right.
It's crazy, isn't it? Like the
You've
style.
Got some beautiful covers right across the issues.
They really pulled out the stops, and I was McNiven's a friend of mine. We hang out, and it was really, when I got the job, I was actually headed out to meet him and Ed Brisson for some drinks, and I was like, oh yeah, I got a job. I got Moon Knight, and he's like, well, I'm going to email Tom tomorrow so I can do some covers. I was like, hell yes.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a fantastic artist. I love his stuff. So, I mean, how did you react to all... last count, I think, Jed, someone in our group has counted over 40, 41, maybe different varying covers. How did you...
Did you issue 1?
Yeah. Did you know, there'll be that much, and have you seen them all?
I may have seen them all. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm no stranger to this, huge, feast of variant covers. Black Cat #1 had.
I was going to say they did a lot for Black Cat, didn't they?
Oh, they did
some beautiful ones for that as well.
Yeah, but no, there's been some wonderful Moon Knight covers. The main covers alone are really exciting, and then see everybody else's interpretations and all their takes. Some real heavy hitters getting in there. It's really exciting.
It's just brought a huge kind of problem to a lot of the loony listeners, because it's like, oh god, do I have enough money to fork out all this? Because they all absolutely gorgeous. I don't think my wallet can stand. I would if I could. I might have to just pick maybe, I don't know, 5 or so, because but they're and then just slowly get them over time. I don't know, but very very interesting stuff.
Yeah, I'd love it if they could, collect them all in the trade paperback. But it sounds like they'd be in.
That's always the dream.
Yeah,
it's like another 50 pages or so.
Yeah, that's right. That's
double
exactly
the size of the trade.
Yeah.
Rebecca, do you want to ask anything about grade of writing?
Yeah, I just wondered, obviously we're loving Black Cat and Taskmaster and all the other stuff you've got out at the moment. How do you juggle it? How do you switch from one voice to the other? Do you find it quite easy, or do you have to get into your own mind space with music and especially with Moon Knight being quite so wild?
It's one of those things where, it's just that some books are easy to write, some books are difficult to write.
Mm-hmm.
And it varies from issue to issue. Like I found Moon Knight very easy to write lately, where I can bang out an issue usually in a couple of days. Taskmaster was like grease lightning. I would do an issue in a day.
Wow.
Whereas other books, just present more difficulty. Maybe there's more characters to deal with. Maybe it's a story I don't have as good a handle on by the time I go to sit down and start writing it. So it's just it's a matter of juggling what needs to get out, and also, what's going to be more difficult for me to write, what's going to be easier for me to write. But also the thing is, when it gets to the actual scripting phase, that's almost the easiest part. Because what I find I have the most difficulty with is the outlines and the plans.
Mm-hmm.
So, it may take me a week to get, the outlines out for, 5 issues or something like that. And then by the time I get to writing them, they may actually be fairly different from my outline. I have kind of a problem for not really sticking to my own outlines, where I'm writing something. I'm like, oh, no, wait, I can solve this right now like this. I don't have to do all this friggin' as I had originally planned. So it's I don't know, if it wasn't work that I like to do, it would be extremely difficult. I'll put it that way.
Does it give you time for any hobbies? Do you have any? What do you do to get away from it all, apart from go camping?
Yeah, it kind of depends what my schedule's looking like. Like, I don't have outside of taking a couple of days to go camping, I don't have a whole ton of time to be engaging in hobbies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in terrible shape. I don't go to the gym. I walk the dog basically. I go to the grocery store and to get our groceries. We do some tidying up. Maybe watch a little TV.
It sounds all too relatable.
Are you a sports fan, Jed, or anything?
Not particularly, no.
Okay.
I mean, when I have the time, I like to paint little Warhammer guys. But I picked that up because when writing became my job, I no longer had a hobby. So I was like, I should probably have a hobby so I don't become a very difficult person to be around.
They're so hard to paint. I have great. The only one that I've got is one that some Warhammer guys did for me, and gave me for a birthday present. So I was very lucky. But I used to go to all the shows and all the awards for the painting, and it's quite something. I used to work in a library as well, and we had a club for. And one of the mothers who came to the library kept winning awards, which is how I got into seeing just how well, if you're the parent of a child who plays Warhammer, that's the sort of sideline, is you can get really into the painting.
Yeah, it's I used to do it when I was a kid, and I picked it up again. I was shocked how much more difficult it was than I remembered.
So how was I doing it back then? Yeah.
How much more difficult it is when you care a bit more than when you're a kid and you just
that's the thing.
Yeah.
Also, my eyes are nowhere near as good. My hands are a great deal shakier. So
your hands are a lot bigger as well.
You realize how small those miniatures really are. Yeah.
Yeah. A heads up as well, because Rebecca and I, we were talking about it the last time you were on the show, Rebecca. There's a little Moonlight figurine apparently that's coming out as well. I'm not sure if was it called Crisis? Is it Crisis Protocol or something?
Crisis Protocol, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, you're well into you know about it. You're gonna have to pick that up, Jed. You're gonna have to paint that.
I will see. I mean, it's actually
whites
I'm
and
curious about the TV series is what this costume's going to look like. It's like we've got him in Declan's costume in this series, and I'm curious if that's what they're going to go for. Are they going to go for the classic look, or I'm very very interested to see how they make that work out. Because
they've been very
cagey about it.
Yeah.
I'm assuming there's going to be a shot, obviously, with Oscar Isaac just having a hood on. I guess as he taking it off that statue of Khonshu at the beginning. But beyond that, I don't know what it will look like. But it's very exciting because, I guess they're quite good with translating costumes onto the screen. I was about to say Moon Knight's difficult because it is so comic booky.
Unless you go Mr. Knight. I mean,
yeah, true.
I mean, from what I heard in the news, Mr. Knight will be something that's in there, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, nice.
No, I think
again, that's what I hear from the headlines.
No, I think you're right. I think it's been in news rather than like Will you watch the show or will you avoid it until like you finished an arc or whatever? Like, is that something?
No, I'll watch it when it comes out. I
I can't
don't
imagine
we'll
anything
have
that
a whole
happens
lot
in the
of
show.
problems.
Yeah, I can't imagine anything won't cross over with stuff you've already read for Moon Knight. So
because again, these shows in their first seasons are always very origin based anyway. So
yeah.
I don't really. No, I'm not going to be like, you know what? I'll tell a story about a guy who died in the desert. That'll really
Yeah.
like you can't run with that in comic books for a character who's been around for so long. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of overlap in that case.
Which is good because it means you can enjoy it without worrying about.
Yeah, I think so. Like there's stuff that I won't watch because I've enjoyed a fictional version of it so much. Like for instance, a while back they made a movie of Midnight's Children, that Salman Rushdie book. And at first I was like, oh, let's see that. And I was like, actually, no, I really liked that book, and I don't want my memories to be overwritten by these, or rather to have the images and the visuals crystallized into one sort of interpretation from a media production, which is kind of like precious and whiny, but it's just kind of. So I don't think it's that as big a deal in comic books, and that comic books already have a very sort of set a way of things looking.
I think also we're very used to in comic books getting the new run comes out and then everything's a little bit different.
Yes.
Or there's a different angle. So like you just kind of sort of take the TV shows as another little run.
Basically.
That's the sort of mini series going on that somebody else is doing, and then you go back to the main one.
Yeah, and again, like it's just not something I think there's a lot of difficult connections with. Like people, when I had Taskmaster coming out, we had Taskmaster coming out, Alessandro and I, people would keep asking me like, what's the deal with Taskmaster in the movie? I'm like, I don't know, man. No one tells me this. They just wanted a Taskmaster book because Taskmaster's in the movie, and I was lucky enough to write it.
I always think it's nicer that people think that the comics might have that level of like profile that they'd start telling you these things because
Yeah, like I mean, I think that some of those Marvel movies, they don't tell some of the actors what's happening.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
Jamoke comic book writer in Atlantic Canada, what's happening in their multi-million-dollar properties.
Yeah. Just with speaking of Taskmaster, and I'm just thinking again of your other awesome run, like with Black Cat and this Moon Knight series coming out. Jed, is there any particular music you listen to while you write them? Did you listen to anything in particular with Black Cat? Is that kind of something, crafty?
It's kind of whatever's going at the time. Like often I'll listen to stuff that's, generally just loud enough to drown out everything around. We got our dog and our cat running around. Yeah. There's always construction somewhere in our block. So it's just, something that won't distract me too much, but will also, kind of act as the right sort of mental lubricant, so to speak. So, lately I'm mostly just going to look at my Bandcamp collection. I listen to Hooded Fang, Mutant Strain.
Nice.
What else we got here? What else have I been listening?
Always interesting to know what writers listen to when they.
That's because you're a musician.
Fat Tony, Sweeping Promises, Liquids, Century Egg, Milo's Plains. Yeah, that's what I've been working on, listening to lately.
Okay, so I'm familiar with them, but so you can work with. I'm assuming they have all vocals in there as well.
It generally doesn't really bother me.
Oh, okay, cool.
If it's if it gets to that point where I do find myself distracted by the music, I'll either put on something that is purely instrumental or something that's just in a different language.
Okay.
I was listening to Midori, a Japanese band, and it was great because I can't understand what anyone's saying, so I don't find it distracting.
Well, I'm certainly going to be rewinding our chat, Jed, and I'm going to pinpoint all these bands that you mentioned, and I might add them in the show notes, and I might check them out myself as well. Always find it quite interesting. But yeah, no, excellent. I guess before we wrap up, though, I just want to any massive shout outs that you'd like to to give, Jed, on some current projects that you're working on, besides, of course, Moonlight?
Yeah, I know we got Moonlight going. We're starting in a couple weeks now. So I hope everyone's excited for it. I hope everyone likes it. It's a 30-page special to kick things off, which is great because I sent in the script to Tom and I was like, man, Tom, this is really tight for 20 pages. It's like, good, you can have 10 more pages. So yeah, I got Moonlight coming out. Avengers Mech Strike number 5 should be coming out this month at some point. Nice. Black Cat number 8. So we're starting our Infinity Stone heist, which should be exciting. Yes. And Magic the Gathering continues apace. We got issue number 4.
Nice.
Yeah. Or no, 3? Man, I can't keep track of what's coming out. I think it's
quite hard with the the weird, wacky schedule of comics and
issue number 4 is coming out.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay, issue 4.
So yeah, issue number 4. So that's going to be a big one for that story. It's a big revelation. And then issue 5 is going to be like a real big revelation for Magic heads. So I hope people like it. It's something I'm excited about.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, we'll certainly, all of these in the show notes, listeners, so easy, quick links to each of them. But I guess just before we go as well, Jed, I wanted to ask, actually, there's also, maybe, Rebecca, there's one at the very end.
Certainly.
Prompt sheet, did you?
Yeah.
Did you want to ask?
Yeah, well, I touched on it earlier when I was saying that we've all had quite different experiences of the pandemic over the last year, and I just wondered if you, as our countries are starting to come out of it, I have to phrase this very carefully for me, do you find yourself feeling more hopeful or less hopeful about the world because of the pandemic specifically, not the popular politicians, because that's a separate issue?
Pandemic specifically. Sure.
Yes.
Just yesterday, that video of the Gulf of Mexico on fire went around, and I think I'm still getting shudders thinking about it.
Yeah, me too.
I can really only speak to my kind of personal geographical experience because obviously, as you said, we're all in very different stages of dealing with the pandemic, and very different stages of trying to guide our way out of it, depending on where we live. And so the places in the world are just being absolutely mauled by it, and it's horrible. As far as we go, I think I live in maritime Canada, and we had it pretty well on lock for a while. We had a provincial bubble, so the 3 or 4 provinces in the Atlantic area were allowed free travel between them, and it was great. And then it just kind of went to shit. The bubble popped, fell apart. We were getting hundreds of cases a day, and it shows how quickly this can all just go away.
Yeah.
We can think that we're doing really well. We can think that our policy is really good. But all it takes is people not thinking of other people. And it goes away so quickly. So now as the vaccinations are rolling out where we live, our populations are getting more vaccinated. I'm certainly more hopeful in the pandemic perspective in, again, my area of the world. It does, however, did illustrate kind of how fragile so many of the processes of whether we take for granted in our modern world and our modern society are, though. And I really hope, fingers crossed, that we have actually learned some real lessons from this, as opposed to just doing the same bullshit over again.
Yeah, it's a really weird time, I guess, that we're living in. It's very strange. Over here in Australia as well, we've been relatively lucky, but it's the last week, in my state at least, we're in lockdown again, so it's sprouted up. So it's just something that we're all learning to, I guess, to live with. And you're right.
Exactly. How we live with it. We're not going into what's happening in the global south and stuff like that, which is, devastating.
Yeah. And ultimately, this is something that came to my life at a period in which I was very privileged to kind of ride through it. Just a few months before the pandemic hit, I quit my job as a junior high teacher to write comics full time. And, I still have friends who are teachers, and they're just describing how difficult it's been, this whole process.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
gosh,
we had massive lockdowns as
learning.
well. I'm never been more aware of how lucky I was to already work from home.
Yeah.
So a lot of the mental health things people were finding about being, because we were locked down for, I don't know, it feels like 8 months out of the last sort of 14.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So each time
Like
sort of seeing my friends having to go out to work or people losing their jobs, and I'm like, things haven't changed all that much for me, except I'm busier. So
yeah,
and that's the case. Like 5 years ago, I was working at a grocery store stacking vegetables,
mm-hmm.
and that's, and when you work in a minimum wage job where you don't get any paid sick days, you go to work when you're sick, because otherwise you get evicted. Like, I've worked in the grocery store a few years when I couldn't get teaching jobs just with the way the market was.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And like I would go to work sick all the time because I can't lose out on whatever a full minimum wage shift is. Yeah. So if I had been in that situation with COVID, I'd have been screwed.
Exactly. And you were talking about like just quitting your job just before the pandemic. I mean, teachers, man, they've had a rough trot as well. Like when when that hit, I've got a fair few friends who are teachers, and that whole whole thing with everyone having to stay at home, parents having to homeschool, but teachers having to carry on over Zoom and stuff. It's a different way of teaching and learning. You've got to feel for the students as well. It's such a seems
it's extremely difficult. I mean, everybody up the line, parents to students to teachers to even admin staff. If you're a custodian at a school and there's no school to clean, what are you going to do for a job?
Yeah, exactly. Look, I think we'll probably. I wanted to leave it a little bit on a light note, Jed.
Sure.
So I'm just going to say, I'm going to drop a little thought bomb on you, Felicia, Mark, relationship. Let's make it happen. Anyway, just a thought there, Jed. Just a thought.
I mean, she does have a taste for a man in uniform. That is true, but
there you go.
I feel like even Felicia has limits to what sort of highway disaster she's going to romantically entangle herself to.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway,
wise to that and say no.
And also, exactly. Mark doesn't get any more bad luck in his life.
That's true. That's true. Oh well, I'm going to say never. But a huge thank you, Jed, so much for your time. I know, having just been vaccinated the second time as well, it's going to run riot in your body. So thank you so much for taking time out to have a chat with us.
I'm happy to talk to you guys. I'm happy to chat again down the line as the book comes out. We'll talk about that.
Oh, I would absolutely love to. So, I might just drop you a line. Listeners, towards the end of July, from what I understand, I think 21st of July, the issue will come out. But a huge thanks once again, Jed. Forever grateful, and hope to hear from you soon.
All right, sounds good. Well, I said you got my email address. Give me send me a note sometime.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
All right, later, guys.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Jeff and Rick present Unpacking the Power of Power Pack,
where we journey through each issue of the most underrated Marvel series of the 80s while drinking beer,
analyzing awesome and amazing adolescent adventures, and absorbing alcohol.
We got kids with powers, we got villains with attitude.
We got superhero guests, like all of them from the Marvel Universe.
We have thematically appropriate beer reviews.
We have good jokes and bad song parodies.
One stop for all your Power Pack pod-pleasing procurements.
And we got alliteration.
Find Unpacking the Power of Power Pack wherever fine podcasts are played.
Costumes on.
Yes, welcome back, Looney listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, the Moonlight podcast. This is our latest episode, and you just heard there the fun chat we had with Jed MacKay. Both Rebecca and myself had a really fun time chatting with him. You may have heard a third co-host there, little Finn. Apparently he wanted to chat with Jed too, so just at the beginning there, before I managed to edit some of his stuff out, and or his mum finally managed to get him out of the room. But he was very well behaved. He was excited. He was excited to see what this podcasting was all about. But you may have heard a bit of Finn there. Apologies for that. Anyway, moving on, I just wanted to shout out a couple of night lines here, and both from YouTube and both from one of my favourite Loonies, CMK7. Beep boop, beep boop, boop, Chris. So thank you so much, Chris. Chris has got some feedback for both 217 and episode 218, which has just come out prior to this one. So the first bit of feedback was based on that episode that Chad and I did about things that go bump in the night. And Chris writes, another great subject for the chat. I so love the stories that pursue that underused warrior priest aspect of Moon Knight and returning the character to his horror roots. Taking the reader along as Moon Knight delves deeper and deeper into terrifying supernatural scenarios and exercising the evil forces that lurk in the shadows. I'm also excited to hear Moon Knight is finally taking on proper vampires in the upcoming series. Nightmare is another supernatural Marvel villain that I think Mooney should take on. I'd love to see him return to the realm of dreams. Yeah, thank you, Chris. And I think you are referring to, of course, those Black Panther issues, I guess, which had Moon Knight in there, where they do tackle Nightmare, which was very interesting. I found that was pretty cool. I'd love to see him take on Nightmare again. He's got that thing with, I always think of, with Morpheus, being, sleep deprived, and, the latter version of Morpheus had him infecting you in your dreams with himself. So, Nightmare would be great. But thank you, Chris. And Chris also then leaves some comments for 218, which was Chad and I's review and discussion on the Mike Benson arc Down South, issues 26 to 30 from 2009? Could be wrong. 2007 to 9, something like that. And anyway, if my tablet will rotate properly, it says here from Chris, finally Into the Night goes down south. You know how much I love stories of Mooney on the international road, and this arc delivers. Chad's description as colourful is spot on. So many great gems in this short but satisfying run, like you guys pointed out, particularly the characters of the Zapata brothers and the mysterious and deadly Toltec, which seemed almost showcased for his own spin-off, which we never got, unfortunately. Great arc nonetheless. A small sequence that resonated with me is when the Zapata brothers point out that it's suicide to take on Alcantara's compound because he has an army there, to which Moon Knight says, looking up at the full moon, I'll take my chances. Great stuff. Yes, thank you again, Chris. Great to hear from you, and great to know that you enjoyed Down South. It was a ripping story, and although, Moon Knight could have been swapped for anyone, really, it still was a good story, I thought. But those little touches, like you say, about him looking up at the full moon, that's great. That is Moon Knight, isn't it? And Khonshu in his different guises was very fun as well. But also, interesting about Toltec, because maybe that explains it, because he really kind of flitted in and out of that run, didn't have as much impact as I thought he would. So, maybe they were thinking of using him down the line somewhere, but it just didn't eventuate. But thank you very much again, Chris. It's always great to hear from you. Loonies, if you have any thoughts or you want to, drop in some feedback, please do. I'm going to actually pop up in the group a discussion post on the Moon Knight issue 1 coming out on Wednesday. So my intent is, fingers crossed, when it drops on Wednesday, then I might as well say now, next phase, next week we'll be doing an in-depth discussion and review of Moon Knight issue 1 with Rebecca. Hopefully we'll get Khonshu in there as well. Always fun to have Khonshu back. Get the OG team happening. But that is the intent. So once it drops, hopefully we'll be able to turn around a discussion pretty quickly. And then I'm thinking maybe as a second potential episode of the week, if you do get your thoughts in, maybe on the weekend I might collate them and then read them out and then discuss them. That should be fun to get, to share everyone's thoughts. Would be pretty cool. So that's the plan for next week. Should be good. I'm excited. I can't wait. I can't wait indeed. Before heading off, I've mentioned what's happening next week, of course. Spectacles, again, I just want to shout out, I've been doing these for the last few episodes, but Tomes of Evil, there's Moon Knight Villain Mania Month. Go check out the podcast, hosted by Russell Moran, really cool. You'll hear some familiar voices there from the ITK kind of crew, all talking about a different Moon Knight villain. Very fun. Also, Daniel Doing's GoFundMe for Fringe Knight issue 6. Go check it out on the show notes as well. Please support your indie creators. They put a lot of hard work into it, and it's so much fun to get something other than what's in the big two. Paul Davidson's Kickstarter for Fantastic Illustrated. Again, check out the show notes. Paul Davidson, fantastic artist, as I mentioned, was part of the Bemis run towards the end. Really good stuff. I urge you to. I'm hoping to pick up a copy myself. As well, Moon Knight Origins, they have an Indiegogo page. Please support their fan film. They're working hard as well. They want to create extra content, behind the scenes stuff. Please check them out on Instagram or Facebook or their Indiegogo page. All of that stuff is in the show notes. And finally as well, Phases of the Moon Knight, essays examining the world of Moon Knight. So please email Scott Weatherly, great friend of the show and host of 20th Century Geek. Please email him at 20thcenturygeek@gmail.com. And if you're keen to write an essay on Moon Knight and get it published, he's your man. All the details will be in the show notes again. Well, that pretty much wraps it, Loonies. Thank you so much for joining. I'm hoping you enjoy this solo episode. I mean, just the one episode this week, but wanted to make it special because it is with a creator, Jed MacKay. Very kind of him to take his time out, and especially under the circumstances when he had that vaccination jab, to still come on. So thank you so much, Jed. And again, patrons, if you check out patreon.com/ITK Moon Knight, check out all the incentives there. Please consider helping out the show. I can do even bigger, better things. We can just take it further. And also, as mentioned at the top, Hello Headphones. But if you use the code ITK Moon Knight, you get 10% off their online store. Dreamland Comics, use the code MOON and you'll get 20% off. We're also an affiliate member of Entertainment Earth, all your toy action figure needs. And finally, we are part of the Collective. Go check out these other shows. Seriously, they're awesome. Big shout out to the Collected Edition by Paul Matthew Carr. Fantastic work there. The guys over at Capes and Lunatics, obviously, they're such a cracking, fun crew. And their show shows that as well. Their shows show that. And finally, as well, I'll shout out TV Podcast Industries as well. These guys are great. I'm sure they're going to be doing a great Moon Knight TV show breakdown. But I'm hoping we can create some synergy between them when the time comes. Finally, you can contact us, leave your feedback on email at itkmoonnight@gmail.com. Also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Discord, Get Vocal. We've got a website. You can leave comments there as well. And Podchaser too. And incidentally, with Podchaser and Apple Podcasts, if you would like to leave a review, I would really love that. It just helps the show get out there a bit more. Maybe find those loonies who do want to listen to some people ramble on, but want to learn more about Moon Knight. It will definitely hit them. They'll come across it more. Anyway, loonies, that is it. Once again, we'll see you next week. With an in-depth, I can't wait, with an in-depth review of Moon Knight 1 by Jed MacKay and Alessandro Capuccio. Let me know how many variant copies you'll get. Let me know what you think. And until then, may Khonshu watch over the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information, or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.